The trap with the covert narcissist is you can feel safe with them, not knowing that a narcissist is still a narcissist. They have different masks that they wear, different ways of being in the world, but ultimately they want the same thing.
Welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. This is a show presented by Heart and Solutions Counseling Agency. We release new episodes every Sunday at 5 p.m. Central and encourage you to batch up that laundry, put away the dishes, plan for the week ahead, or do any other task that might seem daunting while you give our show a listen. You might just be encouraged to call your therapist, connect with this week's guest, or seek out those services you've been considering for a while but haven't made the commitment to yet. If you are in the state of Iowa and are in need of mental or behavioral health counseling, give us a call at 1-800-531-4236. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome back to the You Need a Counselor podcast. My name is Dr. Julie Johnson. I'm the president and founder here at Heart and Solutions, Mental Health Counseling and Behavioral Health Counseling in Iowa.
And I'm Chrissa Hunt. I am our Vice President in charge of the Behavioral Health Department. And this is our podcast, You Need a Counselor. So we are designed for people curious about counseling, but have barriers keeping them from experiencing the benefits of counseling. Our mission is to share stories about counseling, good, bad, and indifferent, and spread the message that everyone can benefit from mental health and behavioral health counseling services.
Our guest today joins us from Pennsylvania. We've got Elizabeth Aguilera here with us today. Now, Elizabeth spent 30 years in corporate IT before her job was moved offshore to another country. So in one day, Elizabeth's professional life, career she had built, everything completely changed in a way that was outside of her control. And it really just shifted the way that she thought about career and about life and about the way that she was serving others. So Elizabeth then worked for 6 years helping seniors and overwhelmed moms, and then decided to become certified as a certified life coach so that she can continue to help women find themselves, especially after experiencing narcissistic abuse. So we're very, very excited to talk to Elizabeth today about the services that she is providing, and also about the counseling services that she has received. So welcome, Elizabeth. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a very important topic. The counseling is very near and dear to my heart. And I have seen so many people, especially the people I serve, those who are recovering from narcissistic abuse, benefit tremendously from counseling.
Now, can you tell us what is narcissistic abuse? Because I think that term gets used in a variety of different ways, and some may be helpful to some people and some may not be helpful to some people. So can you share a little bit about that for us?
Sure. That term narcissist, it's so thrown around today to just describe someone who you think is being selfish. And that's not the true meaning. So a narcissist is beyond self-centered. They feel entitled. They think they're better than everyone else. They lack empathy, which means they don't care about your feelings. And they're all about power and control over you. They want constant admiration. They crave attention and praise, and they use people to get what they want. So if what a narcissist wants is power and control over you, narcissistic abuse is how they get it. And I define it as the systematic destruction of a human being through emotional and psychological abuse. What they do is cruel, calculated, it's intentional. They destroy your self-esteem, your self-confidence. They make you feel like you're going crazy. They erase who you are so that by the end of the relationship, you are a shell of the person that you were. And it all happens so gradually, so subtly, you don't even know it's happening.
And I know you wrote that you have your own personal experience dealing with that as well. Can we hear your story and kind of what led you from maybe dealing with narcissistic abuse to now being a life coach working with women struggling with that?
Yes, of course. And so, yeah, this work, it means everything to me because I was with back-to-back narcissists when I was younger. I met the first one when I was 16, stayed with him till I was 32 married for 8 of those years. He was an overt narcissist. So he was very, out there about his um, intentions and his and everything that he did. I mean, he loved to talk about himself. He was, always wanting attention. Aren't I wonderful? He was the hero of every story. If things didn't go well, he was the victim, clearly. And so this is how they are. And so the overt narcissist, um, I almost thank them for being out there because they're easier to see. And so I fell into the trap with a covert narcissist um, after the overt narcissist, and I thought, well, he's nothing like the ex-husband was, so that's a good thing. He's shy, he's quiet, he's, he just the opposite of what I came from. And the trap with the covert narcissist is you can feel safe with them, not knowing that a narcissist is still a narcissist. They have different masks that they wear, different ways of being in the world, but ultimately they want the same thing. And so after the second one, who broke my heart, I said, I can't trust myself. I can't trust other people. My picker's broken, and I'm not going through this anymore. I put up walls to protect myself, and that kept out predators, but it also kept out the love I wanted from ever finding me. And so, um, I don't want anybody else to have to deal with this lonely and confusing path with a narcissist um, alone.
Yeah, I think sometimes the way that the term narcissist gets used, I think can be confusing for a lot of people. And when you talked about overt and covert narcissism, I think that really helps a lot of people to understand that because when we think about narcissistic traits, narcissistic personality disorder is a DSM-5 diagnosable disorder, and it is treatable to a point. There are treatments for it. They're just not treatable by somebody else, right? So if we have somebody in our life that has the symptomology, whether they've had the official diagnosis or not, if we recognize those traits or those symptoms that the person is demonstrating, then it can we can know that yes, there is treatment available. There's just not treatment by us as their partner, right? We
A hundred
cannot
percent.
behave our way out of or make choices or say the right things to change how that person is going to treat us, even though there is hope for that person. I think that when we're in a romantic relationship or a friendship, or they're our son or their daughter, or there's somebody that we care about in our life, we want to have hope for them, right? We want to think that there is hope for the symptoms that they're displaying to us, and there is that hope. But there is that difference of yes, there is hope for treatment and there is hope for recovery from those symptoms that they're having, but not by us. It's their recovery is not going to be impacted by our behaviors, by us changing who we are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I think
I
the
have the choice to choose myself and help myself, and they do too.
That's right. Absolutely. And I think the power and control piece that you talked about really is that part of that defining factor, especially when we're talking diagnostically as well, is that power and control piece is what separates those kinds of behaviors from behaviors that might look or sound similar when we're establishing boundaries for ourselves. So there's sometimes this sense of, well, I don't want to be narcissistic, right? So am I being selfish if I say, no to working, on a day where I can't, or if I say no to going to an event that I don't want to go to, now am I being selfish? And the difference between the two is that if I'm setting a boundary for myself, I'm acknowledging that I can only control myself. I only want to control myself. And the piece that you're talking about with narcissistic personality disorder is that desire to not only control myself, but to control other people
Yes.
and other people's behaviors. And that's where that line is. But I think it can get very confusing sometimes for
Mhm.
people.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and you talked about empathy as well, and that lack of empathy. And we've heard a lot about empathy in the news lately, as empathy is, or I have heard a lot in the news about empathy being dangerous, about empathy being a risk factor to, change that needs to be made. And what that says to me when I hear things like that is that empathy is really where our power is. If we're in a relationship with somebody, or in family relationship or friendship relationship with somebody who does have narcissistic personality disorder, empathy is really where our power lies. Having that empathy for other people, having empathy for ourselves, and so often that can be shut down as part of that process.
Yeah, I think it's huge. Empathy is something that really is a gift if you have it. Um, and yeah, being able to care about other people's feelings is a gift that you give them. If the narcissist takes your gifts and uses them against you, that's a whole other story. But empathy in and of itself for yourself and for others, I see it as a beautiful gift, because if you can put yourself in somebody else's shoes, and you can understand another point of view, I mean that's just everything. Because you can't insist on seeing the world just the way you see it. There's a problem with coming at things that way. But if you can see different perspectives and understand different points of view, it's then you can work through problems so much easier.
So you went from a an overt narcissistic relationship to a covert one, and you mentioned that that covert narcissism is much more difficult to identify. How did you identify that?
To tell the truth, I did not know what I went through until very recently. So this happened for me in the 1980s. There was no term narcissist in the 1980s, and into the 90s. It wasn't a thing. It wasn't a popular concept. People just didn't know what it was. And so it's taken me 30 years. And when wanted to become a coach, and I wanted to look into, well, who is my heart to serve? I had to sit with that for quite a while. And then it all came back to me. I didn't go through this for nothing. I went through it so I could help others. And it's in this recent, I would say 3 to 4 years, that I was able to label what I went through. And being able to put a name to what I went through has been hugely healing, satisfying. Uh, those are the words that come to me right now. Comforting, to be able to have a name for what I went through, because nobody could understand what I went through. It was beyond toxic. It was beyond awful. It was toxic on steroids. And I look all around me, and there are people, they're getting divorced, but they're working it out. It's okay. It's not the most wonderful thing in the world to go through, but they're getting through it with grace. They're getting through it the best they can. My divorce was again, it was horrific dealing with the narcissist, and he took vengeance like everywhere he could. He made my life a living hell every way he could. He delighted in ruining my plans, and so I had to then, take care of my son, and it was supposed to be his weekend, and all these mind games that he was constantly playing. But he had a lot of enjoyment from it. Um, it was sort of his job to make my life difficult. And so, that's my experience and what I went through. But putting a name to it and then being able to, dig deep and research and to find everything else I can about it, has been important for my healing.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned that you did try counseling and had some good and bad counseling experiences. I see one of the things you wrote was one of your counselors were trying to give you like tips on how to deal with a toxic partner instead of how to, I mean, even labeling it as narcissistic abuse at that time, when she said it wasn't even really a word that was used at that time. How do you in your life coaching, where you work with women who struggle with those, like kind of take those situations you went through with a counselor to learn from that and not have the same impact on them that the counselors had on you?
Yeah, well, as a coach, I work in tandem with counseling. So a client, a coaching client, many times um, can really benefit from working with a counselor because they're unpacking the past, and sort of how um, their actions, why they did things, why they were a target, how they fell into these things. It's sort of unpacking the past, so that they can understand how did this happen. And I help them with the present and the future. Um, so now that we know what happened and how you came to here, what do we do about it? That's not the life we want. So we are creating a life that we love. And so what are the steps that we take to create a life that we deserve, and to continue to heal and to learn from what we went through so it doesn't happen again. And so I am a big advocate of counseling. Counseling is something that is it's almost like Goldilocks and the Three Bears. Like you have to give yourself permission to try it and then see who you gel with, because you don't gel with everyone. And so, maybe the first person that you go see, you don't gel with, but that doesn't mean that counseling's not for me. It just means that that particular personality in you maybe weren't the best fit. And you're going for a long-term relationship with a counselor, so you want it to be a right fit. And so it's okay. It's okay until you find the person that you really just gel with and can be open with.
Yeah, absolutely. Depending on where we are in our experience of what we're going through, right? And depending on where we are in terms of our understanding of what we're going through, different counselors are going to be a better fit at different times. And so sometimes it's not even that, it's that counselor. And I think sometimes people feel guilty about thinking that or feeling that, right? And like, oh, but they're a counselor. I should change how I feel. I should change how I think to match with how this counselor is doing their treatment. And that what you just said is so much permission giving, right? Permission to say, no, this is not the right person at the right time for me and for
Right.
what I need. And we know, like, we know what we need in our minds. We know what feels supportive to us and what doesn't feel supportive to us. We can recognize that. It's whether we acknowledge that and act on it or not, that can get in the way of finding that counselor that does meet our needs at that time, that does feel supportive and comfortable when we go into that session. And part of that process is just like pruning a tree, right? Part of that process is we've got to be willing to let go of one that is not that right time, right fit, right person, so that we can make room for the one that is that
Right.
right fit, right person.
Mhm.
Yeah. And do you find that that it's similar with coaching, that certain times of our lives and certain coaches are going to be very, very useful to us in certain times, and then maybe not in others?
Absolutely. I've had many coaches in my experience, and it's very much the same thing. Sometimes what they're trying to share with you just isn't resonating with me right now. And maybe I can hear that at a different time, but right now, this is not what I need. As I'm thinking about my experiences with counselors, um, they were good and not as good, right? Because every experience that I go through, like I can always get something from it, always. But it's just if it wasn't everything that I needed. So some people were wanting to share medication with me. They thought that I should be on medication, and that I didn't really ask for that. So that's not what I wanted. Um, Other people, they couldn't give me practical sort of tips and strategies for dealing with my day to day, which is really what I was looking for. They just weren't equipped to help me with that. And it's good if you can see, people's strengths and if they match, which is just what you said. And then there was another counselor who was very nice, but they were a rah-rah cheerleader for me, which is wonderful, and telling me all the things I was doing well, which again is lovely, but it's not what I needed at the time. I was looking for very practical advice that they just couldn't give me. And so, yes, it's meeting the right person at the right time who can help you with what you need, um, and honoring yourself by being able to say yes to this person and no thank you to the other person, and doing what's right for you.
And I know you mentioned when you first got out of both of those relationships, you thought your picker was broken and you had to like take your walls down and learn how to do that. How did you go through that process and learn how to get through that? I know you had some not great counseling experiences, but I mean, was it counseling you think that got you through that, or what was able to help you fix your picker kind of?
Yeah, yeah, um, it's interesting, but travel became my therapy. I never traveled before. And I just started taking trips to different places and with friends, and being somewhere new, and experiencing something completely different, meeting people. Um, and you don't have to travel outside of your country to do that. You can be a tourist in your own city if you want to do something different. But for me, travel was a way for me to get to know myself. When I would travel, I found that the things that I liked to do the most were all self-care. I didn't know this is what I was doing at the time. Only years and years later, I realized, you know what I'm doing when I go away? I'm talking to people. I'm remembering to smile. I'm laughing. I'm eating healthy. I'm making really good choices when I'm away. And it's all effortless. I'm just having conversations with people and being interested in other people, and there was no pressure. I took all this pressure off of myself, and I was just present wherever I was. I was exercising because they had a gym, so why not? Let me try that. I was doing all this self-care, not knowing that that's what I really needed. And of course, I do self-care now, uh, right here at home. I don't have to go anywhere to do self-care and to give myself what I need. But uh, it was interesting that in my traveling is where I found out to give myself what it is that I needed. And that sort of helped me in my healing, in feeling better who I am, in being more confident in who I am. And slowly over time, those walls did come down. And I don't need them to protect me, to keep anything out. I'm calling my beloved in. I am calling in just the best of the best. And I don't have to be afraid that I'm going to attract another narcissist. I had a lot of fear. Like I attracted two back to back. I can't go through that again. Like I will not go through that again. So I was living in fear that this would be my future. And I don't have that fear. I do trust myself and I can trust others and it's been a long journey of self-love and getting to know myself. I'm a big believer in inner work, and a counselor is a wonderful person to help you um, find out why I do the things I do, and to unpack all those kinds of things and hold a mirror up to myself because I have blind spots about me, right? Um, I have childhood wounds that have not been addressed, and I may not even be aware of. And all of these things a counselor can help you with because a beautiful byproduct of working on you is that everyone around you benefits. And counseling isn't just for when things go wrong. It's to help ensure things continue to go right. And it's to become the best version of yourself. And that I don't know of anything more beautiful than that.
That is a beautiful, beautiful way to think about it. And it also combats some of those not the feelings, not that necessarily the feelings make us more susceptible to somebody who might have narcissistic personality disorder, but I've been in a not a romantic relationship, but in a relationship with somebody who had quite a few narcissistic personality disorder traits, not formally diagnosed, but again, looking at it from the outside, right? Those traits, those symptoms that they were having are very apparent. And I think that within myself, because especially at that time that this was happening, this was about 10, 12 years ago, but at that time, I was very, very pliable. My shape of who I am, my personality, my shape, my boundaries had not been established. And so, I think about a cat in a bowl because if a cat jumps into a vase or a bowl, its body just becomes the shape of that vase or that bowl. But when you put a cat outside of the bowl, they're the shape of a cat. And so for me at that time, I was very pliable. And this person, part of the symptomology of that comes with the narcissistic personality disorder, some of those symptoms were very attractive to me at that time because they felt shaped. They felt like a cat-shaped mold that I could put myself into. Their boundaries were very strong. They didn't have a problem upsetting somebody by doing what was best for them, right?
Yeah.
And so, as somebody who had a lot of codependency at that time, had a lot of people pleasing tendencies. I was attracted to those traits, right? They hurt me in the end, but I was extremely attracted in the beginning to that because it felt like they've got what I need, right?
Mhm.
Because I was kind of on the opposite side of that spectrum. And when you're talking about, I find that the traits that kind of uh, attracted me towards that person uh, are traits that, yeah, when we come kind of towards the middle, right? Those are extremely useful traits when it comes to setting boundaries and control over ourselves and our own experiences and our own lives. And where it becomes harmful is when it's about controlling other people's
Yeah.
lives and what other people are doing. But I wasn't even to the point where I was controlling what I was doing, right? What I was doing, what was going on in my life, what my boundaries were. And so I was extremely attracted to those traits. And especially with when it's covert,
Yes.
it's even more challenging because a lot of times it is wrapped up in empathetic looking behaviors.
Yes.
But when you dig down to what the purpose is, it's not true empathy, right? It's masking and acting in those empathetic ways. And so I can definitely uh, understand, and especially when you said having a label for it, understanding that this person was going through symptomology. This is a clinical set of symptoms. This person was going through symptomology. I understand what I was going through that made me attracted to those traits. But being able to say, oh God, okay, I'm not the only person, right? This isn't a me thing where, there are parts of me and things that were undeveloped at that time that now would not attract me to that. But at the time, absolutely, it was very attractive, these traits.
They
So
can be
I can
very
definitely, yeah,
charming.
yes, I can definitely understand what you're saying. Like being able to label it, being able to say, oh, this is a phenomenon that happens to thousands and thousands of people. It's not that right, am a part of this problem. It's that this is a phenomenon that happens to people. And it doesn't matter. I mean, it happens to people who are uh, CEOs of companies and who are, politicians and people who, when you look at them, you would not think that this was happening, which again helps to differentiate that and take away the blame that really can come, or those guilt feelings that really can come, those self-blame feelings that can come afterwards, going, well, maybe I didn't try enough in the relationship, right? Or maybe I didn't behave in a way that would have made them happy. And being able to say, no, it wasn't that. There was no way to make them happy, right? There's nothing that
Exactly.
I could have done behaviorally to help them. There were things that I could have done behaviorally at that time to help me in that
Yeah.
situation, but I could not help what that dynamic was.
Hmm.
So I love that you said that because it is so true and so true for so many people. And as you're raising awareness for other people hear that and go, is that what is happening to me? Right? Is that why this feels so different?
Yes.
And you talked about, advice that you would receive about toxic relationships or about maybe common just conflict in relationships and how that advice really does not apply when it's this kind of dynamic. Can you tell us more about maybe some of those tips that you received or some of that common wisdom that comes to us when we're having relationship difficulties that really don't apply when we're in a relationship with somebody with narcissistic personality disorder?
Yeah, I would love to share um, sort of ways to avoid getting sucked into this relationship. But it's not necessarily just with a narcissist. It can be just with any person, right? But I would start with knowing yourself, right? So taking the time, and we can be impatient with this, but it's taking the time to get to know you. If it's getting to know what you will tolerate, what you won't tolerate. You talked about boundaries, which are so important, and honor yourself. If someone crosses your boundary, and a narcissist will, how will you react? There has to be a consequence that you will follow through on. If you raise your voice to me, I'm going to leave the room. well, there's a clear consequence. And so, and enforcing it, if they raise their voice, then you have to leave the room because you have to honor yourself and your boundaries. And a narcissist is all about crossing over your boundaries to see what they can get away with. And so, self-love is this beautiful thing that helps you know who you are, stand in your truth, stand up for yourself, say no to doing something that you don't want to do. Yes to the things that you love, but you're coming from a place that honors you. You're not going to be bullied. You're not going to be pushed into things, and you're not going to be manipulated because you're so grounded in who you are and you know yourself so well that anything that doesn't align with you will have to fall away. You just won't put up with it. So self-love really is the key to everything. It gives you that strength, that inner strength. And a narcissist will move on to the next person who's much easier to deal with than you and doesn't have the awareness that you do. And so it's self-love is really the narcissist antidote, I like to say, because if you show up like fully as you and comfortable with you and confident in you, they're not going to stick around because then they can't uh, condition and manipulate you the way that they love. Also, take things slowly. The narcissist does love speed in a relationship. They love bomb you, give you attention and affection and all the compliments, and they show up as charming, and they are absolutely, absolutely everything that you have ever wanted. And they rush the relationship. They may say that they love you very quickly, want to move in. They're painting a beautiful picture of a future together, and you haven't even been together long enough for you to really know this person. And already they are painting the future together. And so it takes a while to know someone. And you want to get to know how they deal with disappointments in their life when things don't go their way. Like that is the most telling way to know who a person really is when things are going badly or not as how they expected, right? And so just take things slowly, get to know someone over time, and there's no need to rush. Trust actions and not words because the narcissist loves to talk. The narcissist makes big promises they do not follow through on. And so you really have to observe, are they following through on what they say, or is it just words that hook me in? He's telling me everything I want to know, everything I want to hear, and there is no substance behind it. And we talked about knowing your standards and your boundaries. And again, that's critical for you to know yourself and be clear on what you won't tolerate in a relationship. And don't ignore small signs of disrespect. If someone is crossing your boundaries, if someone's being disrespectful to you, don't be afraid to cut ties with them, because if they're showing you this behavior in the beginning of a relationship, it's not going to get better, that's only going to get worse. And so cut ties, and you don't need to explain or justify walking away from someone who does not feel right for you. And so those are the things that I would love to share.
Absolutely. Are most of your clients then people who have just recently left a narcissistic relationship, or sometimes you work with clients who are still in a narcissistic relationship and are trying to get out of it? What typical clientele do you work with?
Yeah. So mostly it's people who have left the narcissist, but they're struggling and they really don't know why, because they thought once I leave, like I'm good. I just have to get the strength to leave and then everything will fall into place. And they don't really understand the fallout. They don't understand sort of the healing process. and things that occur after you leave, that seem very small, but are actually very big. So if you've been with a narcissist, they make all the decisions, and all of a sudden you are not comfortable making the smallest decisions for yourself. And the world is filled with decisions, and it can be very overwhelming. You may not trust yourself, surely, after leaving a narcissist. And um, other things that I've seen are, it's just the trauma bond is a huge source of suffering. They don't realize they've been in a trauma bond, and there is an actual withdrawal. There are withdrawal symptoms from a trauma bond that if you don't know this is what it is, you just don't understand, like, why I just left this person. Why can I not stop thinking about them? Why am I obsessing about them? Why do I miss them? What, there's just all these questions. There's all these, why do I feel sad and depressed when they were no good for me and I know it? And so there's all these questions that come up, that you just don't understand. It's very confusing until you can unpack everything that you've been through and um, get some clarity around it for yourself. There are some people who are still in the narcissistic relationship and making the plan to leave, that I've worked with. And so it's both, but mostly people who already recognize that they're with a narcissistic partner and would love some help and support, in how to heal and how to put them in the past so that they can concentrate on what they want to build, which is their beautiful future.
Yeah, and I like that you acknowledge that there are it that it is and normalizing that it is normal to miss that person. It is okay that you have those feelings, and those feelings can, when it's not normalized and when it feels like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Why do I miss that person? Right? Why do I miss that? Why do I have these thoughts about that person? It can be very disorienting, and it can feel like, well, what's going on? Like, should I go back to them? Like, what's happening? And I think that normalizing that, hearing that from other people, that is what happened to them as well, can really, really help with that, because then we go, oh, okay, that's part of the process. That's not a sign, right, that I need to go back to that person. That's a sign that this is what happened.
Yes.
Um, and I think about it like a roller coaster, right? I mean, like, a roller coaster is terrifying. And if you didn't have the safety, that feeling of like, okay, I'm terrified on a roller coaster, but I have feeling of safety because there's regulation. If there's no regulation on that roller coaster, right, it still might be fun going down that roller coaster part, right? There's a thrill with that. There's a feeling with that that feels different from when you're going up to the top of the roller coaster, right? So there is a payoff to this cycle, and any kind of cycle of abuse. There is that payoff feeling that it's natural to miss.
Yes.
So when there is that those negative times, a lot of times there are those positive times, and that those positive times, because in my case, like, I was attracted to certain parts of that person's who they were. And so there is that sense of like, no, there were good things about that relationship. There were there were things that were beneficial to me about that relationship. That's what attracted me to that relationship in the first place. And I think it's easy for other people seeing that to go, why would you think about the good times, right?
Yeah.
Like, why, like, what are you doing? But when we're in it, to be able to go, no, that is normal. If I didn't think those things were positive or helpful to me, I wouldn't have been attracted to that person in the first place. So of course there were good times.
Yeah. There's definitely a
Yeah,
grieving process,
yeah,
when you have left that relationship. And some people want to fast forward. They want to press that button and fast forward through all the pain. And it's been 7 months. I should feel so much better. I should be so further along on this journey. There's a lot of sort of n wanting to fast forward, and I understand that. I do, but it grief is a process and healing is a process, and you're doing both of them at the same time, and it's okay for it to take as long as it's going to take.
And the perspective that you talked about, where everybody benefits when we heal ourselves, I think that's such a point of hope, because it is so true when we think about that. And that can give us that hope to be able to get through the hard parts of it, to say, okay, I'm not going to skip the hard parts of it, because I know that if I do, I'm not going to go through that healing process. And if I'm a person who was initially attracted to somebody with narcissistic personality disorder symptomology initially, then I'm likely a person who gives grace. I'm likely a person who wants to please. And so we can utilize that, because it can feel, when we're in that relationship, that can feel like our greatest weakness, but actually it's our greatest strength.
Yeah.
And so when we pull on that caring about the people around us benefiting, we can go, okay, maybe today I can't do my healing work for me, but I can do it for my child today, right? Like I can do it for my friends today, right? And knowing that, yeah, it is my healing process, but we can utilize that part of ourselves that is our greatest strength to say, okay, even if I can't do it for me today, I know that this will help people around me as well.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. And, Warren Buffett has a quote that I love, and it's about like the best investment you can make is in yourself. And that's very much how I see, this journey of investing in yourself, of um, working through all your things that you would, be better off working through, because it's going to show up in the way that you treat your children, in the way that you treat your parents, in the way that you treat the checkout clerk at the supermarket. It shows up everywhere, and you become a beacon. You become a wonderful model, and you don't even have to say a word. Just by doing the work, you become somebody that others are inspired by. They look at you and they see your journey, and they may not even tell you, but they're like they see the difference. There's a difference in you. And you don't have to say a word. You just show up and continue to do this work that's so important on yourself. And it sort of radiates.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, if anyone is listening and maybe is on the fence about starting counseling or starting life coaching, what suggestion might you give them?
I would say just give it a try. Just think of it as an experiment. Think of it as an investment in yourself. It's if whatever you're facing right now um, is so important to you that you would want help with it, then give it a try, because not doing something about it isn't going to fix it. But at least if you make that first step and you give that a try and you stay curious with how it is that you can show up for yourself and help yourself, there will always be something that you take away from it. And so I just say keep trying, and it's okay if something doesn't work out the way that you would want it to or would have loved it to the first time out. It's okay. That was not a failure. It's just something that, didn't work for you the way that you wanted it to. But you always take something from everything that you do. So take what was good and keep searching. Like the searching never stops. Wanting to improve something never stops. And so if you treat this as a lifelong journey of improving all kinds of things in my life, then it's very natural and normal to invest in yourself and to see where you can make yourself better. And again, becoming that best version of you, that's what this whole life is about. And so anything that you can do to keep you on that upward spiral of becoming, because we're always in the process of becoming, um, there's no better investment that you'll make than in yourself.
Beautiful, beautifully said. We can learn something from every experience, and as long as we are willing to have the experience and willing to learn from it, there really are no bad experiences, because we learn about ourselves, and that is our most valuable asset, is our relationship with ourselves. So beautifully, beautifully said. Thank you so much for being here, Elizabeth. This has been wonderful talking with you. Now, how can somebody reach out to you if they're interested in coaching with you?
Oh, absolutely. You can reach me at thegoodcalling.com, and I would love to gift your audience a free coaching session with me. And so just go to thegoodcalling.com and you can book it there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. What a valuable service that you're doing, and what an important way to utilize the experiences that you have had in your own life to help those around you. I think it's so important.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on. You both have been just amazing, and I appreciate this time together. And I'm Elizabeth Aguilera, and I need a counselor.
I'm Chrissa Hunt.
And I'm Julie Johnson, and we need a counselor.
And so do you.
Thank you for listening to the You Need a Counselor podcast. We are so grateful that you're here. Now, we want to hear from you. Text us or give us a call at 515-650-3231. You can also find and connect with You Need a Counselor on Facebook and Instagram. If you've enjoyed today's show, please take a moment to like, review, or leave a comment, as all of these things help others to find and benefit from the podcast as well. If you're in the state of Iowa and interested in mental health counseling or behavioral health intervention services, give us a call at 800-531-4236.